To the High Ground podcast. I'm excited because we are talking about the sequel trilogy. We're going to go through all of them, touch a little bit on every movie. We may not get as granular as as humanly possible, but it's going to be a lot of fun because in the weeks to come ahead, we will also do some breakdowns of each and every film. Already got people following in here. What's up, Jedi Connor? But yeah, we are going to jump into that right now, right here on the High Ground podcast. What's up, everyone? Hello, how is it going today?
Hello.
Well.
Hey.
Hello. Good. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm excited to have y'all here and chatting about the sequel trilogy. I've heard all you guys, being super positive towards it. Most of it, and JJ's for JJ, but
I have some critiques.
Which there's nothing wrong with critiques. That's the point. We all want to critique and be critical of the media we love while still loving it. It's been shocking me how many people hate the Book of Boba Fett, but still tune in at midnight to watch it. And you're like, are you don't enjoy it?
Watch it?
Isn't there other stuff to check out? I don't know. What's the hell? Anyways, I will start by let's go around the room. I'll have everyone introduce themselves. Who are you? Where can we find your amazing content? And my icebreaker question today. Last time it was, who would you want your Star Wars parents to be? This time it's the opposite. Who you have to raise someone in Star Wars from a child.
Oh.
And you got to choose who you're going to pick. I'm going to go to Ephraim first.
Awesome. Well, hello. Chaco, thanks for having me, first and foremost.
Absolutely.
My name is Ephraim. My handle on TikTok and Twitter is GenZennial. And you can find me there, TikTok and Twitter. I also have an Instagram under the same account. And man, this question is a little bit loaded because I'm about to become a dad. So I'm like, thanks. I'm thinking of that. Yeah, 2 months. She'll be here soon. So I'm thinking of that, and then I'm also thinking of the movie Encanto, which came out recently and was very good. But it's
so
basically generational trauma, the movie. So my answer, oddly enough, has been Solo because I want to have the chance to heal some things. I don't know. That's just what I'm thinking. And he's a favorite character of mine from the sequel trilogy.
Yeah. So, you want a parent on hard mode. I get it.
He deserves a lot of love. I feel like I got that to give as a almost new parent. So I don't know. Yeah.
I love it. How about you, Xanatos?
I am Xanatos1138 on mostly TikTok. I'm going on Twitter a lot more as of late. And that question, I immediately thought of Ahsoka. That was the first thing that came to mind. That'd be pretty cool. Yeah. I actually wasn't sure if Jedi even counted until he said Ben Solo. I'm like, okay, cool. I can say it.
Oh yeah. No, it's however you interpret the question. That's all good. And how about you, Michael?
Yeah. Also, thanks, man, for having me on. This is going to be a lot of fun. I have a podcast called A Certain Point of View, and we release once a week. And we are on Twitter. I usually do all the tweets on there. And the Twitter handle is certain_POV pod. And we also have a Facebook group, A Certain Point of View discussion group. So go join that. It's a lot of fun, healthy discussion. Yeah. You can disagree with each other and it's fun. So as far as your question, I went to Broom Boy. I want to, I don't know. I've always been drawn to, I love the ending of The Last Jedi, and I've always been drawn to that character. And I also think, I don't know. I also think maybe if I was his father, he wouldn't have become a slave. I don't know. So I could help him out a little bit, because of course I would be a Jedi in that scenario. So
yes.
I guess I shouldn't laugh, but that's like, no, it's a good point. And before we go to JJ, just a couple of shouts out here in the chat. We have Amber Medina, who would choose Rose and Paige.
Yes.
Excellent choice.
I love it.
Of course, Camilla chose Padme. That was obvious. Of course, Stardust and chose Jen. She absolutely needed someone to care for her. And then also, can I get everyone to shout out Luke? He turned 27 today.
Happy birthday, Luke.
Happy
Luke.
birthday.
And Luke is on the Pod Ones podcast. They're great people to know and hang out with, so definitely check them out. But yeah, it's awesome. But last but certainly not least, JJ, how about you?
Hi, thank you for having me. This is really cool seeing all you guys. I make content on TikTok only under Cat Lady JJ. So I talk about Star Wars, Marvel, anything that comes up, pop culture, mostly Star Wars and Marvel. So to answer your question, I was going to go with Ben Solo too, maybe like a troubled character, but I'm going to pick Anakin. You know what? That kid needed a hug, like from the get-go. A hug or a tap on something, some love. Maybe the galaxy would have been a little different. I don't know.
You can always hope.
You can always hope.
I mean, by that token, I should choose the Sheev. No, I'm just kidding. I would not choose it because
he might kill you in your sleep.
Yeah, it ended badly.
So it's really funny because if you read the Legends novel Plagueis, his dad has always hated him, but the reason eventually his dad says why, and he's like, even as a child, as a baby, you would look at me like you wanted to kill me. Like, I've always known I was gonna die by your hand since you were an infant, and he made good on that promise.
Is there anything in Legends of him dissecting animals or peeing in bed as a 5-year-old?
He's a messed up dude for sure.
There were warning signs.
Yeah, I have to change mine because the first person I thought of was Buri Yaga Buri from the High Republic, but but I am not going to raise a Wookiee because they will like you would have a child forever. Like I kind of thought, like, what if Mando didn't give up Grogu? Like, he'd be raising a child for the next 25 years, and he'd be like 8 at that point. It'd be crazy. So yeah, I'm gonna end up going with. I'm still in the High Republic mode right now, so I'm gonna go with Reith Silas. He's just a nice little studious boy, just always trying to be the best. So I approve of that.
Good answer.
I just bought the whole trilogy of the books, so I'm watching all of your guys' reaction and kind of skipping. So I'm getting there. I'm getting into it.
Yeah,
I'm very excited. I just got the books.
Can't wait till you catch up. Awesome. All right, so let's jump into it. So the first question I wanted to kind of ask is how you guys got introduced to Star Wars. Was the sequels the first thing you were introduced to? Because I know that's kind of like something that's asked, like, oh, you like the sequels? Is this your first Star Wars? Or so? Yeah. Want to jump into that? I'll go to Xanatos first, but again, this is conversational, so y'all feel free to jump in and share your stories.
Well, I started watching Star Wars when I was 9. I watched the original trilogy kind of back to back. I rented it, and then went through and read Legends for probably a solid decade, just nothing but Legends books. And then the prequels came out, and I really liked the prequels. A lot of my friends were like, "Why do you like the prequels? What's going?" It's the same tone as now for the sequels. And when the sequels came out, I at first was skeptical because I liked some of the stuff in Legends lore, and I was kind of hoping to see Thrawn on live action, all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. But then as I'm going through TikTok and seeing the really, really toxic, incorrect, stubborn opinions of people, it's caused me to do my own research and look into everything. And I actually really love the sequels a lot now, a lot more than I did like a year ago.
Awesome.
Yeah.
It's funny how that happens, but like, we're like, I think you're misremembering that scene, and you rewatch it, and you're like, oh man, this was solid. Like, yeah, it kind of makes you like love it more. Yeah, I mean, who else wants to go?
I'll go.
Go for it.
Yeah, so I was a original trilogy baby. I grew up on the actual not the extended editions. That's Lord of the Rings. I grew up on the special editions, the VHS. I actually have them back here somewhere. But I grew up on those, and eventually I was about 10 when the Phantom Menace went to theaters. Absolutely loved it as a kid. Actually loved all of the prequels as a kid, and then I got older and started to realize those weren't cool anymore, and it was really cool to hate them. And so I hated them for like 10 years, and then I don't know, just over the last few years I've really started to evaluate how I look at and consume things. And is that really my opinion, or is that just the opinion of someone else that I like, that I love or respect? And I just kind of took that on, and I have found that Attack of the Clones is still not good for me. But even in that, I can take a lot of good things from it. I love certain things about it, particularly like Detective Obi-Wan on Camino and all that stuff. I love certain parts of that. I've found that The Phantom Menace has been slowly crawling its way up my rankings, just not giving up. And Revenge of the Sith is a top 5 for me now. So I actually have a lot of love for the prequels, even though they're not perfect. And then the sequels came along. I loved The Force Awakens right away. Although that one, as I watched it more, I still have a lot of love for it. It hasn't aged quite as well. The Last Jedi I loved right away, and it has aged even better. I have grown in my love for it. And we'll talk about The Rise of Skywalker later. But I really am an overall fan of the sequel trilogy. I really love a lot of the movies, and even in the ones that are my least favorite, I still find things to love about them. So
awesome.
I find myself in that camp of like when it comes to the sequel trilogy, and we kind of have similar. I'm just cutting in here because we have a similar experience with like the prequels and like kind of being younger and like really being enraptured by them, and then like you realized it was not cool to like them anymore. But I actually, when I was growing up, I had a VHS player in my room, and my dad had episode 4, episode 5, and episode 2 on VHS, and that was it. So I grew up with this weird half done puzzle piece of Star Wars. I wasn't allowed to watch them in the theaters because I was still pretty little, but and when the sequels came along, it was my first time seeing Star Wars movies in theaters. And so the sequels all the way through were like a magical experience for me because I grew up with this love of Star Wars as a kid, but never had the theater experience. So I immediately really enjoyed the sequels, and I feel the same way about The Force Awakens. Kind of very, very pleasant experience. Hasn't aged quite as well. Still enjoyable. And I'm in maybe the rare camp, but the not increasingly less uncommon camp that likes The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker almost equally. And that has led to an interesting relationship with the
awesome.
internet.
I'm so jealous of you.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to talking about that a little bit more, but yeah, just to kind of piggyback off of like your experience, I feel like we had pretty similar with the prequels and whatnot. But yeah, awesome. JJ, how about you?
My first experience with Star Wars, I was 14, I believe, and it was the Phantom Menace in the theater. And the moment Darth Maul showed up on screen and pulled the double-bladed lightsaber, I was sold, and that was the beginning of my journey into the universe. And at that time, like, I didn't have internet. We had AOL chat, those weird dial-ups and like Napster, but like there's no forums that I went to. There wasn't a whole lot of discourse. I did not realize how much these movies were hated until well into the adulthood. And then I picked up on the actual toxicity of what was being done to the actors, to the young Jake Lloyd and Hayden and Ahmed Best, like all of that came to me way later. And like, I mean, unforgivable to this date. I don't think we can pay the price of what we've done to those actors. So to me, original sort of came in way later in my life. I love the original trilogy. It's my favorite personally. I can find very little flaws with it. And the sequels sort of came like a natural progression from the prequel era into the original and then on to the next. So I have a bit of a love and hate relationship with the sequels, I would say. I enjoy The Force Awakens a lot. I think it's a solid movie that I introduced to basically any new fan. Like, they don't know anything about the lore. They don't understand how any of it works, but they don't want that cheesy 70s special effects of the original era. So, and I don't want to give them trade and taxes of the the Phantom Menace.
Fair.
So it's like, let's get into the safe way and watch Force Awakens. And the Last Jedi, it's fine wine movie. And The Rise of Skywalker, we have a very contentious relationship. but there, as years pass, as I listen to a lot of you guys and a lot of lore masters actually explain some things that I didn't understand, I can learn to appreciate it just a little bit better. But it still broke me in a bad way. But we can talk about that later.
Yep, we'll certainly get there. Also, for X4 Gamer Skills, the Tross and TFA are tied, and it's cool because it's always different, and I really like. So personally, I learned a lot because when I first started this podcast, I went through the films and I invited people on that loved each one, and when I started that project, actually Rogue One was my least favorite. It was at the very bottom, and after that episode, after me and people broke into that, it jumped up significantly, which left Tross as the bottom of my list. And when I did that episode, it made me appreciate a lot of things that I missed. It's still last for me, but there's still a lot to enjoy there. And obviously, there's so much to love that we talk about. So I don't know.
Hey.
All right. So, lightning round for everyone here and everyone in the chat. What character deserved more than what we got? But you can't say Finn. You can't say Finn.
You're smart for.
I mean, excuse me.
We'll
God.
I'll go to Michael first.
Rose. Easy. Rose Tico. I loved her role overall in The Last Jedi. Even though that arc is not like the best part of the movie, I think that what she does in the movie is fantastic. And when I watch The Rise of Skywalker, like, she's just like studying and saying expository lines, and every one of Dominic Monaghan's lines could have been Rose's lines. I don't know. I was just like, Rose was a great character, and now she's just not there. So Rose Tico.
Nice. All right. What do you think, JJ?
Oh boy, usually my brain defaults to Finn. I think it was such a disservice to the character, and especially the way he was sold in the trailers and the marketing. It's like so difficult to default. Rose is a good example. Maybe Hux. I think he was mistreated in The Rise of Skywalker pretty poorly. I thought he was an established villain already that could kind of butt heads with Kylo Ren on their different power dynamics, which sort of, and The Rise of Skywalker took that rug underneath everybody's feet. And now I was kind of left. I would have done a little bit more with Hux, I believe. Phasma, maybe, but Hux is a big one for me after Finn.
Yeah. No, that's a great choice. I just laugh at Rhonda with the book said, "Why was Mary the Hobbit even?"
Thank you. Yeah, like
I was like, where did he come from?
He was on set that day.
He's friends with J.J. Abrams from the Lost era, so that was it.
Are we talking about Lost tonight? I got lots of things to say.
Me too.
I actually never watched Lost.
Don't do it. I mean,
I
didn't bother watching.
No, you should do it. You should watch it.
You know, I had this experience where like my friends where I would walk in while it was playing, and then something crazy would happen, and I'm like, "What is this?" So like, I saw the first episode of the Smoke Monster, and I'm like, "Okay, this looks interesting." And then like, I walk in and I see someone turning a wheel, and then the island disappeared, and I was like, "The
Okay,
hell?"
yeah, you can't just skip episodes. That's not how it works.
Impossible.
I know, but like, it's just like me walking past it playing at different points in time. It just made me like, all right, this is ridiculous. This is too wild. How about you, Ephraim?
Oh, this might. So obviously Finn is like my first answer, and then Rose is my second answer. So this one is like, I'm not sure how people are going to react to this, but Leia. I think she should have passed away in The Last Jedi. Not just because of Carrie Fisher's death. Like, I think it would have been narratively to have the twins kind of mirror each other and have narrative conclusions that parallel each other could have been really powerful. And also the Rise of Skywalker having to use old footage, unfortunately, it's just one of those behind the scenes crutches that changed, a lot of how they were going to structure the movie. So kind of like I don't know if that's a contentious answer or not. I do love her characterization in the sequel trilogy, and I love her as a mentor to Rey. I love that we got to find out that she was a Jedi, but I think narratively might have been a little bit more structured and powerful to have her story handled differently in The Last Jedi. So I don't know if that's
okay. No, that's
I don't know how I feel.
Yeah, I know. It's not your first answer or second.
Well, I know that a lot of people would riot if both Luke and Leia died in the same movie.
Oh my god.
Oh yeah.
They already rioted when Luke died, so.
And it would have been really,
Spoiler.
really strange to have Kylo Ren commit matricide and patricide in the same movie. I mean, it would have been excessively jarring. And
Yeah.
If that was to happen, if that scene took place, if he actually pulled the trigger and she passed. So it was, yeah.
Yeah.
I
don't know. I'm not saying they do it that way, but just, yeah. I didn't write the movies. Maybe it's better I didn't. So, obviously.
Well, as soon as we asked, first thing pop up was St. Pat saying Rose Tegan,
Yes.
Stardust M, Rose.
Yes.
X4, Poen, Rose.
Yeah.
Amber Medina, Rose. It's it's
Consensus
Rose
is clear.
And Phasma.
Ooh, Phasma, yeah.
Rose 100%. Ben, nice. We have.
You mean more than 10 minutes of screen time? Okay.
And saying "ow."
Last word, famous last word.
Famous. I don't know about famous, but yeah, last words for sure. Cal's just choosing everyone. Let's see here. Snoke is actually my choice. I would love to get some, but I'm not upset that he was killed. Like, that's how every Star Wars movie has been, where like a villain randomly shows up. Like, that's every episode of the prequels that happens in.
Dooku. Who's...
Good example.
But how about you, Xanatos?
All of these choices are great, perfect, and I thought of Tali Lintra.
Nice.
She's the pilot in the beginning of The Last Jedi. She has a couple lines
in the A-wing. Yeah.
Yeah, and then Kylo shoots the hanger, and she looks up. Boom, end of character. Just those couple of lines and like the way she delivered them. I'm like, I want to know more about you. Oh, can't. You're dead.
She did have a presence, like she was going to be a bigger character.
Yeah.
Isn't that seems to be an overwhelming theme of the sequels? Everything seems like it's gonna be, but it's just 2-hour movie. You can't fit all of it. I get it.
Can't do it all.
You can't do it all.
I got X-Wing in the chat saying, "I read Into the Dark. Don't tell anyone, but I enjoyed it." It's all good. We all stand geode.
Top 5.
I've only read Light of the Jedi, so I'm I loved it, and I'm just so bad about sitting down and actually reading a book. So I'm going to. What's the next one I should read?
Depends on how granular you want to get, but you can jump from Light of the Jedi straight to Rising Storm if you want to. If you want to get the big hits,
the big ones, and then go between later. Or is that like?
The way
I haven't gotten a straight answer from anyone. So.
There's so much.
Okay. Yeah.
So the big books are like Avengers movie. You can watch Avengers, then watch Age of Ultron, and then watch the two-parter if you wanted to, and you would roughly know the context of the film and the characters. But like if someone died, you wouldn't have this. Oh, I've watched 3 movies of them struggle to get stronger and better. So certain things aren't going to hit you the same way if you don't.
Okay. Well, I don't want to do that.
Actually,
that's a great analogy. I don't want to do that.
All right. So then Into the Dark is the next one you got to read.
Thank you. Okay, got it.
It's a good one.
And I have that one back here. It's ready to go. I just haven't started it yet.
All right.
You're about to have a new favorite character, and his name is Geode.
Okay. I've heard this name.
Yes.
Awesome. So for me though, I mean, I said Snoke. I do want more of. At least I do want to hear, his history of like growing up as a gross cloned ball sack and like just like just I don't know, like, and you see him a bit on the station, and he has a weird hat and stuff and like robes. Like
he's a funky little guy.
He's got a story, man. He's got a story to tell.
That is amazing.
Eccentric clone ballsack guy.
Oh my god! Added to the lexicon of the scripters.
And then also shout out to X-Wing. Thank you for the $5 ramen drop. These all go straight to ramen, and hopefully at Celebration we'll be doing a ramen party. So that's the goal. That's the goal. But yeah, all right. So that was a lightning round. Let's jump to the films. All right. So let's do it. First thing hits us is The Force Awakens. Real quick, I always talk about. I went to Star Wars Celebration 2015, best con I've ever been to. Wow. That was where they released the trailer for The Force Awakens. We're like waiting in line for panels, watching it over and over again. Like the excitement was palpable when
I just got chills.
Me too. Because I remember that trailer vividly.
I did too. Oh my god,
the trailer hit hard, and like you're waiting in line, and you can hear someone's phone that's somewhere going, "Chewie, we're home," and you're like, "Yeah!" And when the movie dropped, me and my buddy Travis, man, I can't even remember how many times we saw it. But I was living in Sacramento. We even drove out to San Francisco to the biggest IMAX theater on the West Coast in order to like experience it there.
Nice.
That's awesome.
We get craft beers and sneak them in and just have a beer and watch a movie. It's the best. Anyhow,
perfect.
That's all pre-movie stuff. How did the actual movie hit you guys? I think we'll start this one with JJ, and then everyone can jump in.
Personally, I really loved Force Awakens. I think it hits every Star Wars note. It introduces new characters in an interesting way. I do think it's a bit of a copy of A New Hope, which I don't have a problem with because I liked The New Hope. I can watch it. So to me, it had enough nostalgia without being like I'm being nudged. You know what I mean? Like, pay attention to this. This is, you know what I mean? Like, so I liked Rey. I like Kylo Ren, Hux, Finn, Poe, like all of these interesting characters. And when Han Solo appeared on the Millennium Falcon, that was the end of it. That was just I was crying. I couldn't believe that was actually happening. So I do remember the trailer when it came out initially. It's still in my head. Like I could still hear the music and Finn appearing, taking off his helmet as a stormtrooper out of sand on Jakku. So that was awesome. I really like The Force Awakens. I don't have a whole lot of negative to say about it. I think it has a beautiful arc, sort of building the middle and the conclusion. So those are my just quick general thoughts about The Force Awakens before we talk details.
All right, awesome. And then also, I got to shout out to the Star Wars lawyer, Chris, for 2022. Yep. Hopefully, this is gonna be a great year for content and for talking Star Wars with all of y'all. This community is awesome. Like you can see the chat; they're awesome. You know, it's crazy.
Y'all have a great chat going. I'm like, man, this is a great place.
Yeah.
Hey, if you have any other awesome people, bring them. Like we need more. We need more.
If I'm leaning a little too much, I really can't see anything, so I'm just reading everything. I'm blind as a bat, so I'm just like.
And Miss Aggie is dropping some controversial opinions. I like The Force Awakens more than A New Hope. I grew up with the OT. Please, no one roast me.
Let's roast.
You know what I have to say to you?
Roast. I'm just kidding.
No, just real quick for me, I love The Force Awakens. I obviously it couldn't exist without A New Hope, but I loved what it did with A New Hope. I like that it basically took the echoes of the previous characters, but gave us the exact opposite. We got the exact opposite of Luke, where Luke is like, "Let me go out to the world and like do stuff," and then she's like, "I don't ever want to leave ever." You know, you have Leia, who's leading this like all in for her cause, leading this rebellion, and you have Finn, who is like hates the cause that he's in and is trying to escape it. You have Han, who has no cause and like needs to find it, and then you have Poe, who's willing to die for it no matter what. Like they're the exact opposite of the caricatures, and I think that's why they framed it in there, to really show you the difference. At least that's how I read it.
I love
but
that,
yeah,
dude.
yeah. How do you guys think? How was your experience with it?
Well, for The Force Awakens, when I first watched it, I loved the Falcon sequences, all of the lightsaber visuals. When Han took one step onto that bridge to look at Ben/Kylo, I said out loud, "Oh my God, they're gonna kill off Han Solo!" Like I knew it right there. And then I really liked that movie overall. But then, like shortly after, Rogue One came out, and I think I like Rogue One better. It is my number 2, I think, on the rankings. Rogue One.
Wow, that's awesome.
You know what's funny when you're talking about? I'm sorry to the Han Solo thing. It got spoiled to me the day before I went to the movie theater in a article about a Bangladeshi factory that collapsed back in 2015 in a comment section.
What?
People were such menaces. I mean, they still are. They still are.
My eyes couldn't believe it. I almost threw my computer. I'm like, I'm reading a random article, and I even have spoiler blocker on just for Force Awakens. Then he mentioned of Star Wars, and then in the comments, Han Solo dies a day before, and that's why I'm like so triggered with spoilers.
Oh yeah.
One of our friends on TikTok got spoiled for Spider-Man No Way Home in a K-pop group, like a K-pop like fan group.
Someone just in the comments.
You're like, why here? Why? Yeah, actually, so I saw it the first viewing possible, and when I left, there was a truck with Han Solo dies written on the back, and you're like, some people are just like horrible people, you know.
People just want to watch the world burn.
Yeah.
That's the same. It's probably the same guy who did Dumbledore dies. Probably the same guy.
Wait, what? I'm just kidding.
Spoilers. Come on.
Abraham Lincoln gets shot too.
No.
Come on, America. Spoilers.
Michael, how about you? Oh, actually, real quick. Where did the comment go? Shout out to JJ for rocking the High Republic sequel trilogy
I
shirt.
love it.
That's such a dope shirt.
Right?
That's awesome.
I thought it was appropriate.
Yeah, that's my Dyad Element 7. He made a High Republic Rey shirt, and it's amazing. I don't know how people are talented artists. I can't do it.
I love it.
I see a picture like on the page, and I'm like, oh, okay, I just have to make those lines, and it looks like trash. So that's. But
I mean, the robes and everything. It was perfect.
Yeah. But yeah, how about you, Michael? How was your The Force Awakens adventure?
I love The Force Awakens. Probably the sequel that I've seen the most, actually. I did say earlier that it's probably it hasn't aged quite as well as The Last Jedi, but I do have a lot of love for it. And I actually, when I was watching, I did a rewatch just this week. I've been planning it anyway, and then you asked me to be on, and I was like, perfect. I'm just gonna watch them all. And so I was watching, and I was like, I think I even tweeted the first 15 minutes of this movie, the character introductions are just perfection. The way they introduce Finn and Poe and Kylo and then Rey, and one of my favorite shots of the entire trilogy is when she's just sitting up against that AT-AT with the helmet on and just watching that ship. It's kind of like you said, she doesn't want to leave because she knows she has to wait, but it's almost like she also knows that there's more out there for her, but she feels like she has to stay. And so I don't know. I have a lot of love for the way that those characters were all introduced. And then obviously when Han and Chewie come in, it's just like it's such an emotional experience in that theater. But I did feel like there were some times where JJ, you said earlier, it's a safe movie to show people for the first time. And I think you're absolutely correct. But I think safe is probably the best way to describe this movie. And I feel like they referenced A New Hope few too many times for me. Particularly, like there's one eye roll every single time I watch the movie is when they go, "Oh, so it's like the Death Star," and he says, "No, I wish this is the Death Star. This is Starkiller." Every time I'm like, "Oh my god,
that's not a knife."
That's great.
It's just it makes me laugh. Honestly, it's just really funny the way it's delivered. But like there's a few things like that, having the trench run again, all that stuff. It's a little too mirroring for me. Even though Star Wars mirrors itself all the time. But overall, I love this movie. I think it leans a little too much into that. JJ tends to do that, and that's fine. JJ Abrams, not you.
Right. I figured.
I'll to make the delineation there.
Yeah. But like I love the Kylo versus Rey at the end. There's just so much goodness in that movie, and it's beautifully shot. JJ Abrams is such a great director. So yeah, I really love this movie. Amazing theater experience for me. I probably saw it 5 or 6 times in the theater, actually. So yeah, I mean, that's what I do with Star Wars. Even the Rise of Skywalker, I saw 5 times. So I think I have a problem, but yeah.
A problem or an opportunity? I have a drinking opportunity myself. How about you, Ephraim? We haven't heard yours yet.
Yes, I also
by the
saw
way,
it, like
I just want to make sure: is it a short E or long E?
Oh, it's Ephraim.
Ephraim.
Yes. I've heard it every which way my entire life though, so I promise you, if you get it wrong, anything that starts with E, I'll be like, yeah. So no worries about that. I also saw it, I think, like 4 times, because it was the first Star Wars that I saw in a theater. And growing up a Star Wars fan, having that opportunity alone was like, this made my life. Like, so I have a lot of love for like the theater experience. And I think I fall into your camp, Michael. Oh, we seem to be lining up on
we do.
About how referential it was to A New Hope. I love all the newness that they introduce in that movie. Like everything that's new is spot on, and I would not change a thing. I love it so much, and my enjoyment of all that new stuff was really bolstered by the book Bloodline. By Claudia Gray. And I think I have a lot more love for the sequel trilogy in general, and specifically The Force Awakens after reading that book.
Yeah. Read Bloodline.
Read
absolutely. Bloodline. And also read Resistance Reborn by Rebecca Roundhorse.
Yes, I have that one back on my shelf, and I'm excited to. I'm finishing Fallen Star, so
please no spoilers.
But don't read Resistance Reborn before you read Bloodline. Absolutely read Bloodline first. There's going to be some nuggets.
Got it.
Both, from what I've heard, both great books, and from what I know, Bloodline. One thing that I felt was missing from The Force Awakens on my first watch, was like the political landscape of the sequel trilogy. What is the New Republic? What is the First Order? I was kind of like, it felt a little bit cheap that there was just now a copy of the Empire, that apparently had a super weapon that could absorb a sun and destroy us. I was like, where? I wanted to know. I was like, give me a little more prequels. Yeah, like give me a little more prequels element when it comes to the landscape that we're in right now. But I still loved it. I saw it, like 4 times. So I think out of the sequels, it's the one that I watched the least now, like for just enjoyment. But I still have a soft spot for it. It's still exciting. So yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, and when it comes to that, because I do agree. I was like, okay, where the weird. So I read the book Bloodline when it first came out, and then I read it again last year during COVID stuff and some presidential election stuff, and it hits different.
It does.
And when you so when first I'm like, how did this copy of the Empire show up? And then you realize, no, these are people saying let's make the Empire great again. And you're like,
yep.
You're like, what is, and I'm not going after anyone's political alignments, but that is
the gist of it.
That is their thing. Hey, they had a good run. It was just a crazy guy running it. Let's bring back bits of it. And you're like,
yes, but also
don't know, man.
That character, without getting too much into Bloodline, just in the same vein of what you're talking about, there's a character who kind of embodies that in a very
positive way. Like, I understand it. Yeah,
he's a kind of a collector, of Imperial stuff. It's obviously mirroring someone who's appreciator of like historical artifacts that are less than savory or whatever. But his relationship with Leia just reveals so much more about what led him down that path. And I give Claudia Gray high praise for her writing of that relationship, because it affords you an opportunity to kind of maybe think of the people in your life that it might remind you of, in 2020 and beyond, in a tender way. And so I recommend it to everybody highly. Highly.
I will be reading this book. I will be reading this book.
Publishing.
You guys will see. I have not read many Star Wars books. It's always just been a visual medium for me, and I have not sat down to really read a lot till just this past year. I'm starting to, so I'm excited to go forward with that. But I haven't read it, so every time I watch The Force Awakens and the New Republic is destroyed, I don't feel anything. And I always feel like I should feel something here, but I don't, because I don't even know what this is. Like, I know what it's supposed to be like, but why is it here? And how did it get to this place? And it's just always been so lacking in that department for me. So again, dude, we definitely are mirroring each other.
Yeah.
And the thing I always do though, because like I said, I did have that problem, but the first question I always have to ask myself is this, because there are certain things that are like, okay, this is bad for storytelling, or this is par for the course for Star Wars in general. Like, how much did we feel for Alderaan? What was Alderaan? Who was there? I don't know. Like, so
that's a good point.
So I always recontextualize the things I don't like and be like, okay, but is this par for the course? Do I hate this movie because I had the same thing? But yeah, I mean, so what is the just a quick lightning round? What's the biggest thing that you would change from The Force Awakens? If we can,
what we just talked about. Okay, that's 100% what I would change. And
because I know JJ, you were like, sound like you may have something else in the tank about
it. On The Force Awakens?
Yeah.
And I literally just watched it 2 days ago. It's sort of to refresh my memory on some of the nuances, some of the scenes. I don't know. I would have. I'm struggling here. I wouldn't have had the big Star Killer planet. It was just like, it was a Death Star on crack. It was just that star with a with Red Bull. So, and a couple of new Star Wars fans, not even fans, a couple casual movie watchers that I had them watch that movie, they're familiar with Death Star. So they're looking at The Force Awakens and they're like, did they just make a bigger Death Star? So what's the point? Are they just getting bigger each movie? I'm like, no. So that's sort
of technically, yes.
Technically, yeah,
you're not wrong.
So it's like, and they always have like a deus ex machina at the end that sort of solves the big issue with the big conclusion at the end. So I would have maybe focused on like more of the political intrigue, a little bit of how all of this works, more so on. But then again, J.J. Abrams likes the big spectacle of it. He's not gonna slow it down and cut it into pieces for us to actually absorb what's going on. It's going to be shooting right at you. But I still enjoy it. Don't get me wrong. Force Awakens is a solid Star Wars film. I wish it had more of the Phantom Menace. And I don't want to hate. I don't want to hear any hate. Some of those complicated conversations about the political intrigue of Star Wars universe. So that's the only thing I would have changed.
Yeah, and it's interesting in Bob Iger's book Ride of a Lifetime, he actually talks about it because we know that a lot of the stuff from George Lucas's treatment for it ended up in The Last Jedi, but having, it was they decided to head away from that because they really wanted to try and bring in the old fans at the same time versus George, who doesn't care and he wanted to bring in new fans. But most people don't want to hear what actually happened. Anyways. All right.
He breaks the fantasy.
Yes. My personal hot take, though, and The Last Jedi is my favorite Star Wars movie. But if I were rewriting, I would make The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi one movie. I think there are elements that you could slap them together and have that be the intro. And then we can get a second movie that's a whole year of Kylo Ren running the First Order. And then we get Rise of Skywalker. That's what I would
Interesting.
do. Yeah. But yeah, The Last Jedi drops. When it comes up, I'm sitting in the theater and I look over to my buddy Austin. I'm like, man, people are going to love this film. I was blown away my first viewing, but how did you guys feel about it? We'll go to Ephraim first.
Oh yeah. I also saw this movie 4 times and I loved it right off the bat. Loved it. Loved the subversion of expectations. Loved the characterization of Luke. Like pretty much immediately fell into the camp of this is one of the best Star Wars movies, period. I was completely oblivious to all the, spewing of this isn't Star Wars, blah, 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 for a good week. And it was just the most blissful week of my life. I had no idea what's coming. And what I loved about it then, I still love about it. I feel like I do have some of the like typical complaints about pacing, humor. I did see a fan cut of it that kind of made things a little bit less quippy or whatever, however you want to call it. And I actually enjoyed it a lot. So I think I fall fairly into like the positive camp on this movie. I don't really think I would change anything like other than like what I talked about with Leia earlier. Mm-hmm. I feel like there are just maybe some better ideas. I mean, no one could have anticipated Carrie's passing, and that complicates things. But you won't catch me hating on this movie, basically.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And how about you, Xanatos?
I believe I saw that movie 6 times in the theater, probably every sequel around that much, and I was blown away the first viewing. I liked the end scene, the visuals, Yoda. The whole scene with Yoda was awesome.
Dude.
And like it actually took me a couple of viewings to notice that he said Rey doesn't like she already possesses the books, but he said it in like a pun. And then you see the books later on. Like, oh my God, that's what he meant when I was watching it the second time. But
He's been trolling Luke forever.
Forever, and he still calls him young Skywalker, which was just so cool. Yeah.
I mean, when you're 900, and then become part of the Force, and you're just beyond space and time,
conscious forever.
Yeah. Yeah. How about you, JJ?
It's no secret. I really love The Last Jedi. I will defend it till my dying breath. I will be on my grave defending it. And every time I make a kind of a negative The Rise of Skywalker video, I have to follow it up with the positive Last Jedi video, because I don't want anybody to get an idea that I don't appreciate the sequel trilogy. I just have some critiques. I think that's fair. First time I saw The Last Jedi, and I think I stitched a video asking that question. The Holdo maneuver scene to me solidified what it feels like to be in in a Star War. You know what I mean? It was the most breathtaking, most eerily, most quiet moment of my life at that moment. Like nothing ever could replicate that feeling I had that again in a movie theater. I have never felt that before or after it. So to me, I think it's a movie that was able to slow down a lot for us to actually absorb every character, all of the dialogue, the nuances, the color scheme. It's very violent when you really think about it. To me, it's just a beautiful movie. It has some critiques. I don't like some of the pacing is kind of weird. The Poe humoring Hux in the beginning really throws off the pace in the beginning and sort of, like I said, I don't like that cheap Marvel jokes, I call them, that undercut a lot of tension. So for me, that doesn't never lands. It sort of undermine Hux at that moment, who was already established almost like a German 1939 group level, almost ridiculous kind of villain. And maybe that was Rian Johnson's point of that scene, to sort of kind of mellow down the First Order speech to me, which was crazy jarring. I don't know if anybody else.
It's ridiculous.
I still kind of roll my eyes when I watch that scene.
It was nuts.
He should be twirling a mustache, I think, for that during that scene.
It looks like Dr.
Literally
Eggman.
what I said. Like, and I think Rian Johnson might have wanted to kind of mellow down, soften that edge just a little bit. It didn't work. He could have done it in a different way. Canto Bight, to me, I don't have a problem with that scene. It should have been a little bit longer. It should have been explored a little bit more. I think there's a lot of good themes in there. Sort of the small guy caught in the middle of the war. They don't care who's bombing them. Is it resistance? Is it First Order? They don't know whose bombs are falling on them. And I think there's a lot of important lessons to be taught there. The kids believing in the Luke Skywalker legend, which I thought was such a beautiful detail. Them playing little toys. It's completely underappreciated. And I like all the creatures in all Star Wars universes that don't have speaking roles, like all the porgs. And I don't know the names of all of them. I'm sorry. I'm really terrible with Star Wars names. And I have an accent, so pronouncing them is a struggle. And it makes me feel self-conscious. So I apologize if I don't know everything on the name-wise. But yeah, The Last Jedi, to me, the crate sequence, the establishment of the dyad at that point, which was pretty strong. Force doing something new finally. And number one reason, Luke freaking Skywalker. My God, he's amazing in this movie. He's just, I love him. I love Luke in this movie.
Yeah.
So to me, the funniest part is like, what, you want me to face down First Order with the lightning stick? That's literally what most fans could sort of like in their head canon are expecting. Like, that is not how this works. And he sort of makes fun of them, that kind of narrative. And then what he does, he still goes out there and faces down the First Order. It's just brilliant. I love Luke in this movie. So.
Oh yeah.
I went on a tangent. I'm sorry.
Well said.
That's what we're here for.
I'm excited.
Well said.
No, the whole playing around with like, because there's people who are these legends. You know what I mean? Like I remember growing up, like, man, I want to be Michael Jordan. It was like 1996. Can you imagine if I actually like hung out with him for like a couple days? Like he really wasn't a nice person. I mean, you look behind it, he was kind of a dick, but
I mean, who wouldn't be at that level?
But it's that's one of the things in storytelling that I love, because we can get these idealized versions of these characters, but like, yes, there's a legend, and that legend motivates people, and it drives the next wave forward, and they're trying to achieve this. But that's also a person who, like, takes dumps and like he has to do his taxes. You know what I mean? Like he's just a regular person who sometimes is probably just like, man, I'm tired. I can't do this right now. Who fails, and like what do you do if you're running as fast as you can and it's not fast enough? Like,
yeah, that's a good point.
I loved it, but
people seem to forget that Mark Hamill aged. Like, we don't have anything in between Return and The Force Awakens. He got older. Of course, the character is going to age with him. So with that come changes. So.
And also, it's always been very like authorial, where essentially Luke, as George wrote him, was Arthur, and he pulled the sword out of the stone, but it was a lightsaber, and Obi-Wan was his wizard that was helping him. But Arthur becomes king, and being an awesome badass warrior doesn't mean you're a great king. You know what I mean? Like, you have a whole new challenges and all this stuff. I always thought that was cool as well. But well, I'm going off on a tangent now.
This movie does that.
There's so much, and I only got to Luke. I've been trying to make videos on each and every character because I really enjoy each character's journey, including Finn's. I feel like we forget that his character arc, he didn't even know if Rey ever got saved. You know what I mean? Like, he goes out to save her and he gets put in a coma.
Yep.
Yeah.
So he wakes up in the middle of his last arc of like, where's Rey? That's the first thing he says when he wakes up. But you have this kid who's like, I don't want to fight anymore. Like, I don't want to be part of that. Like, I didn't believe what I was fighting for before, and then he found something new to believe in, to actually join and start fighting. I think we kind of fall into this group where a lot of storytelling in Star Wars traditionally happens in between films and off screen. Yeah. And this is one of those that didn't happen. This happened on screen. And so I feel like people assumed how his arc was going to end. But no, he had to wake up and actually do it.
Right.
I thought he died in The Force Awakens initially when I watched the movie, because he slashed him pretty hard with the lightsaber on the back, and I thought that was the end of the character. It was very jarring in the beginning, and then later on, obviously, you learned that it didn't happen. So, but yeah, you're right. He wakes up in the middle of his own arc, which was very strange storytelling. Definitely
never thought of it that way.
Yeah, for real.
But what is Star Wars? But odd pacing. Yeah. I feel like there's no Star Wars movie.
It's true.
With good pacing.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
Looking at you, Attack of the Clones.
Star Wars is weird. We love it.
Which I love Attack of the Clones as well. But yeah, who else? I'm going to stop. And I don't remember who hasn't gone yet. So jump in. I think Michael hasn't gone yet.
Yeah, I haven't gone. I'm everything you guys have said. I'm just like, absolutely. I'm with you guys so much. For me, I walked out similar to you guys. I walked out of the theater just like assuming that everyone else had the most magical film, theater experience ever, just like I did. Only to find out that one day I would be called a fake fan, and so that that was weird. But to me, y'all, every time I watch this movie, and I have had times, it's such a strange movie because I loved it right away, and after everybody was so hard on it, I watched it again and I started just like looking at it and seeing like, okay, like, do they have something here? And then I would get down on the Canto Bight stuff for a while, and then I would I don't know, that was really the one that I got down the most about for a while. And but the more I watch it, the more that I'm just like, no. Canto Bight is not like the most well executed part of the movie. I really don't think so, but it accomplishes what it's trying to do. I think the setup with Maz Kanata is really weird. It's really wonky.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Really weird. I don't like it at all.
Agreed.
I cringe
did not
every time.
land with anybody.
Yeah, it's so weird. And then some of the humor too. Most of the humor, Rian Johnson's humor, tends to land well with me, but there's a few parts, like at the beginning, it feels like a weird cell phone commercial, and or something like that. So, but
also when BB-8 just jams his head into the
inside, a little weird.
The electric leaks,
a little weird, but at the same time, I also loved that because you get to see that we don't usually see like inside where the droid does his work. So I was like, this is kind of cool. But then he just like plugs the holes where it's really funny.
It was like,
it's really weird.
I don't understand how that works.
Yeah, it's really wonky. But you guys said so much stuff. I could go on and on about Luke. I post about Luke all the time. He's my favorite character, and The Last Jedi only enhanced that. But you guys kind of covered all that. The thing that I want to just bring up that hasn't really been brought up yet is that first, besides the humor that we just talked about, the first like 15 minutes of the movie again, the whole Paige Tico, and seeing this, we don't ever get to spend like a lot of time with a seemingly random rebellion or resistance fighter. They're usually just like Red 2 standing by, and then like pew pew, and then they die or whatever. But like we get to see Paige Tico, like we first of all, the stuff with Poe at the beginning where that awesome POV shot from the inside of the cockpit as he's turning around, all that stuff with the dreadnought. I love all that stuff. But then the story just suddenly focuses on this person we don't know. And whenever she grabs that medallion, it's like this person has someone that's really important to them. And this is such an intimate story about this person that we've never seen before. And then she dies, like a sacrificial death for a cause she believes in. I just find that part so powerful. We never see stuff like that usually, not a super intimate. And I think that's a word that I would use to describe this movie. There's so many parts of this movie. Whenever you're looking at JJ's sequels, they're so big and grandiose. And a lot of that's really fun and really good. A lot of that's great, actually. But I do feel like they're missing an aspect of like really, we don't get the steak with the JJ stuff. We get the dessert with the JJ stuff. And I love dessert, but you can only eat so much dessert.
Yeah, it's a good analogy.
Now you can also eat too much steak, but but I do feel like The Last Jedi succeeds on a level where of just depth in storytelling and of richness in character and intimacy. Like I'll always remember there's a couple of
scenes. Thigh grab.
Thigh grab. Intimate.
It's a very female gazy film, let me tell you.
Oh yeah.
But there's a couple of parts of this movie specifically that I always think about when I think about how intimate this movie is. And I love, number one, in Rey's first lesson where she's taught where she is reaching out in the Force. After the joke that really does work for me, she reaches out and Luke slaps her hand. I love that. But then where she actually reaches out in the Force and then she sees like life, death, all this
sequence.
It's so beautifully filmed and like it's so personal, and it visually tells what the Force is better than anything I've really seen before. And then also that one scene where they're in the hut and you actually have Kylo and Rey in the hut together doing their Force Skype thing, and that shot of their hands, you can see the fingerprints. Like it's such a really different shot for a Star Wars movie, and I think that's what this movie does that is just really rare in a Star Wars movie. And I could go on and on about it, but like I love this movie so much. Every time I watch it, I find something new and to love about it, and I'll just I don't know. I really do feel sorry. I wish people saw it like I do. I really, really do. Not because I'm right, just because I love it so much. I just wish you felt this way, person in the chat that says sequel trilogy sucks.
Which is, I mean, it's a valid opinion. Some people don't like it, which is totally cool.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, that finger touch scene though, and then the hut blows up, and that being a practical effect, that's so cool.
Oh yeah.
Oh man,
yes. It is a practical effect.
It is.
Yes.
Yes, and by the way, if you haven't watched it, there's a documentary called the Director and the Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
It's on Disney Plus.
Okay.
It's a full-length documentary about the making of The Last Jedi, and it shows that part in there. But y'all should absolutely watch it if you haven't. It's fantastic. I've seen it like 5 times.
Like you said, there's always something new to find about this movie to like. Rose's sister, I always forget her name. You're absolutely right. You have 20 seconds of an unknown character you've never seen, and she dies pretty quickly. But the moment she has is intimate, and someone is out there that cares about her. Like another detail I love about this movie that I didn't really give too much thought to, but brilliant. I love it. Oh.
Yeah, no, the way you guys just said it is like, okay, this is a mini Rogue One that happens in the film where we get to see these people who sacrifice all, but instead of Rogue One where they sacrifice everything and they make the saving play, they sacrifice everything, they take out the dreadnought, and it's instantly replaced by a bigger dreadnought.
Yep.
And you're like, oh, and so like sometimes the Hail Mary play is just that, the Hail Mary. You only do that when you have the end. You don't open with that, you know.
And when you speaking of Dreadnought, when it's all blown up and everybody's celebrating for a moment, and then Leia looks down at her tablet, and you see the red bombers going there's a loss of life and loss of equipment that they can't afford to replace too. So it's like you can't even celebrate it for a moment. It could be a moment of win, but it doesn't really matter with the loss of life that kind of does this. So yeah.
And also one thing that doesn't get enough attention is, believe it or not, there was a ton of planning that was involved in this. So we actually do have extra media. Like there's a whole book called Cobalt Squadron, and it is a whole story about Paige and Rose and them joining that bombing squadron and what those bombers do and how they function. Like they're bunker busters for like in atmosphere. One of them was retrofitted to like all those things were drones that would go out and survey an area and come back. And all this stuff comes out the same day as the film. So like if you want more story on this stuff, you can find it, but it's not the purpose. It's not why we're here, you know?
Yeah.
And I've always thought that was cool when we can get that extra stuff.
It's like there's an opportunity for more intimacy with these characters with the expanded material.
No,
and that's what I think is like so special about. I'm big in the comics, I'm big in the books, and it's like for that reason is you get to spend a little bit more time. You know, I agree what you said about JJ's movies being like very sweet tooth, like this is awesome, but my tummy hurts. Like, you know, I appreciate the auxiliary material so much because you get to have the intimacy, you get to have the steak and the dessert, and that's like a big reason why I like love the sequels and other like eras and stuff that have a lot of auxiliary material. I feel like I'm getting all of it, and that's something some people don't know is like you can have the steak, you can have the dessert, and it makes a great meal. Just go for it, you know.
And I gotta say, the new Boba Fett, the 2 episodes are giving me a lot of the Last Jedi vibes.
I was gonna say the second episode,
especially
very intimate, very intimate.
So
the ending
good.
sequence in particular, very intimate. It's beautiful.
Now, I thought about opening this podcast talking about that. I decided to move that to the end just in case people haven't seen it because it's been less than 24 hours.
That's true.
But if everyone has seen it, we'll hit that at the end.
Cool.
But Jedi Mark says, and to watch Resistance and see them go to the ruins of the Dreadnought was so cool. The anime show Resistance, first episode of the 2nd season, they're all this time they're trying to find the Resistance, and they go into system and they make it to Dakar right after this battle, and there's only wreckage, and you see it and you're like, oh damn, you know, like this was their hope, and it was just dashed. So it's interesting. But yeah, all right. So that's largely the Last Jedi. Let's jump into Rise of Skywalker, and we will. All Yeah, I mean, for me, I watched this movie in theaters twice with my wife. And yeah, I mean, like I said before, upon seeing it, it was my second to least favorite. Rogue One was my least. Um, but uh, and I was definitely a hater at first, but after doing two things, after because I wanted certain things to happen after The Last Jedi, and those things did not happen. So I was like, "This is bad." But when I actually took a step back and watched not the story I was expecting, but the one that was being told, and I'm like, okay, so these are the through lines. The line that Maz Kanata says, the belonging you seek is not behind you; it's ahead. And I watched the Last Jedi, and I was like, see, it's not behind you, but like that's only half the saying. The rest is it's ahead of you, and that's what we explore in the next film. And there's a few things, not to mention, having seen friends who are adopted or who are part of LGBT community and stuff like, and ousted by their family, and just people who have had to, or people who just had garbage parents, and you have to make your own family somewhere else. And I didn't have that experience, but talking to my friends that have, and how much the movie meant to them, it's like, oh well,
that's cool, man.
I've been a dick this whole time. Like, it didn't resonate with me. It doesn't mean it wasn't great for someone. But, I had to like kind of take a pause there. But yeah, let's talk Rise of Skywalker. And I don't think I've started with Xanatos yet.
Okay. This is probably my favorite sequel movie. What?
Oh no, I was gonna say maybe we should end with Xanatos. No, but go ahead.
No, just I know how unpopular that is, but I just rewatched them recently. I'm like, you know what? I think I like this one the most.
Nice.
Aside from like when Lando shows up with all the ships, I'm like, they just did the Endgame thing again. There's a couple of like things in the movie I can totally recognize are a little weird and could have been done differently, but just I'm a big fan of the callbacks, and like I really enjoyed Palpatine coming back because it rounds out everything. And I understand people's opinions about Rey being a nobody. That's perfectly fine. I do like that she adopted the name Skywalker to kind of get rid of like the Palpatine bloodline. It's like, why would you want to have the last name of like the Hitler of Star Wars? And I don't know. It was a really good ending to the trilogy for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I have to say though, like along with that,
you broke him.
That last moment where all the ships show up. Yes, it was in-gamey, but two things also come to mind. Anakin as a child saying my mom says the problem with the galaxy is no one helps each other. That's said in the first movie. The last one, everyone's coming out to help each other. And I'm like, okay, well, now I'm sad. But also, George always contextualized the light and the dark as selfish versus selfless.
Mm-hmm.
And that part hit me as the truly selfless thing. So, that part I thought was really explored well. Of course, JJ does this thing that kills me. I mean, yes, in the Last Jedi, they undercut some serious moments with some humor. But JJ does this thing where as soon as there's going to be a meaningful connection, someone runs in the room. It's like, we gotta go. And then they're like, yeah. And then that never gets resolved. So in your head resolved it, but like the characters actually didn't do it. Like you just don't have to write that part. It's like comic book artists who don't draw hands, so they're just like always like out of frame. That's what it feels like.
Yeah.
Who would go next?
Everyone's like afraid to dip their toes in now with this movie.
No, here's the thing.
Oh,
I always say when I talk about this movie, I have a lot of issues with it, but I wish I didn't. I am jealous if you love it. I wish I did. And I watched it again today, hoping that I would love it. And alas, I do not. But listen, this movie has a lot of great stuff in it. It really, really does. But I was texting a friend earlier. I was texting one of my co-hosts earlier, and I was just like, I just feel like this movie starts cranked at 11, and then it doesn't really. It lets up, I guess, down to maybe 9, and then it just cranks back up even to like 15 later. But like at the beginning of the movie, where all of those Star Destroyers come out of the, is it water? I don't even know. Is it water or
water.
Ice? Yeah. When all of them come out, and there's like a million of them, and then I was just like, it's just a lot. Okay, it's just he cranked it to 11, and then there's nowhere to go from there. And then and I see the same kind of thing at the end with all of the all of the ships that show up to help. I'm just like, I love that everyone came to help, but I just feel like there's just so many people there. It's hard for me to, it's just a little ridiculous. It's just cranked to 11. And I think a little restraint would have served those parts well. But overall, I really did find things I like about this movie. In all seriousness, this is 3PO's best movie. I feel like JJ,
for sure.
I feel like JJ just gets 3PO. Like really no one else does except for George. And and maybe even better. Like everything 3PO says in this movie or does is just perfect. And he doesn't have movies like that really. He's great in other movies, but there's something about him in this movie. It's just perfection. And listen, the scene with Han and Ben, it is one of the top 5 scenes from the sequel trilogy. It is beautiful. I had in this movie it's the lowest movie on my rankings. In this movie, that's the lowest movie of my rankings. I had a tear in my eye during that part. It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. And I also love the Rise Ray moment. I also love when the 3 of them are like the main core is together. We didn't get any of that. There are things I can talk all day about things that I actually do like about this movie. At the end of the day, I just think it's put together with a lot of conveniences and a lot of like, okay, go do this so you can do this. And then after that, we have to do this. And then you have to go to this place and do that. And then use the dagger that just so happens to be at the specific spot and all that stuff. It hurts me a little bit to watch it just as a movie. But at the end of the day, it's still Star Wars and I find things to like about it. I really do. So, and I'm glad you like it. I really, really am.
Well, one of my friends who was here when we were talking about the original trilogy, this is one of his favorite Star Wars movies. I would have brought him back, but I'm like, I just had you. But his thing is, this movie is a comic book.
Oh yeah,
on film.
Yep,
that's a good point.
And maybe it was the medium, but like if you think about a comic book, we need to go here to get this thing. Like for me, I was like, there's too many planets. Like, please cut one planet out, and see how that goes. But one thing that was cut that I desperately need back in there in the novelization, we have Kylo Ren using the Force to try and interrogate Chewie. And
yeah, I saw that artwork.
Yeah, so when he does that, rather, he doesn't start by getting the right location. He starts by getting Chewbacca's memories of Ben as a child. So he's seeing Chewbacca play with little baby Ben and teach him how to shoot and teach him how to ride a speeder and all this stuff. And it's similar, quite similar to like the novelization for Revenge of the Sith by Matthew Stover. Read it; it's amazing.
Yeah,
where if your complaint was like, "Oh, Anakin's fall was too quick," "Oh, Kylo Ren's return was too quick," no, there's all these little tiny moments that like really.
I agree with that. Yeah, totally.
But JJ, your thoughts?
So one of the ways that I got, kind of into the Star Wars sphere of TikTok, and it's my utter hatred of this film. And there's things I like about it. Don't get me wrong, but it's an exposition spewing MacGuffin chasing nightmare. Here's the thing: if you remove one MacGuffin out of that movie, you can devote at least one full minute, 60 seconds of time to beloved Carrie Fisher, and not just 20 seconds under a filthy sheet and move on from her funeral. If Padme can get a beautiful send-off and Han Solo dies in a way that's extremely tragic to service his own son, all of a sudden Carrie disappears and her funeral is 20 seconds and we move on to the next MacGuffin. Nothing in this movie to me matters. I left empty. I wasn't mad at it. I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. I felt nothing. And that's to me the biggest crime. Like, I want to feel something when I leave a movie. I want to hate it. I would rather hate it, but I felt nothing when I left the theater. And the more I thought about it later, the less I liked it. And I watched it again so I can prepare for this. I cannot like this movie. I cannot find redeeming values in it. Okay, I like Babu Frick, the Force in a Dyad, all the maneuvering with the lightsabers between the planets and the plane. Yeah. Like that stuff is cool, but they do nothing with Poe. Even less with Finn. Rose, it's a reactionary film. They completely got rid of her because of the fan outrage in The Last Jedi. That is just, if I have a hard time stating that as not a fact, to be honest with you. You replaced her with a slug and your friend from Lost because fanboys didn't like her. To me, that it did not sit well with me. The Han Solo and Ben Solo scene, it would work if it was actually kind of earned. To me, like, this is one point where Ben Solo should be get redeemed, but he imagines his dad forgiving him. It's not how it works. In the grand scheme of things, redemption doesn't work that way. You need the person to actually forgive you, not just you thinking and dreaming he forgives you. So for me, that doesn't work, especially because it's in the last 10 minutes of the movie, so it doesn't feel earned. I don't like Rey Palpatine. That whole thing felt shoehorned in so that, fanboys can say, oh, that's why she's powerful. She got magic grandpa. So everybody's got a magic grandpa in Star Wars. Like, I'm sick of it. Magic grandpas everywhere. You cannot have special blood unless you got magic grandpas. And so to me, that was sort of shoehorned there in without a reason. I'm sorry if you hear my cat. It's their feeding time. Yeah, The Rise of Skywalker just, to me, is completely spiritually corrupt. It lacks soul. It completely lacks soul to me. And again, was it too difficult to animate Force ghosts of everybody instead of using the background noises? That would have been way better. And watching Rey dead cold on the ground felt really jarring to me. And that was just so that Ben can have his final redemption moment. Again, her death served him instead of the other way around. I hated the final act. All of the ships, and I want to go back to your comment about the ships, so many of them showing up at the same time. Keep in mind, this is a timeline of 16 hours. For some reason, Palpatine Mastermind is like, yo, alert everybody. In 16 hours, we're raising 2 billion ships to kill everybody. So everybody's like scrambling in 16 hours. So in the 16 hours, they're chasing MacGuffins and trying to get to the end point. I'm sorry, I hate this movie. I don't like it. I don't like this movie. And I could go on a whole tangent about it. There's stuff I like about it. So, I can go on.
As someone who loves this movie, I can sympathize with like 99% of that. And I think like what people misunderstand about people who love this movie is that they think it doesn't have flaws or whatever. Yeah. I think, and maybe Xanatos, you might relate to this, just like watching this movie is such a treat. Like, to me, like the pacing and the drag you along and the dialed up to 11 and we're going to go to this planet now and all this stuff. And maybe it's because I like comic books, but it feels like what the original inspiration for Star Wars was like, Flash Gordon, Saturday morning cartoons, and crazy wild space goose chase. And I think for me, that part of the movie works so well that I still just enjoy watching it. Like, it's like I'll just throw that on and just watch it. I agree with like 99% of what you said. I really didn't like a lot of the choices that they made. But then I think eventually I decided I'm just going to watch this movie on its own terms, and not mine, and not really on the terms of the other two movies either.
That's fair. That's absolutely fair.
Yeah, but I sympathize with you, and I hope maybe someday like this is something you can just throw on and enjoy, and if it never is, then it's okay. But
I guess maybe it's just the style of movie that I like. I like intimacy. I like moments that are slowed down. I like characters connecting, actually having a conversation, and so. That's my take. That's why I'm enjoying the Book of Boba Fett so much. It's just it's slowed down. Like I can feel Boba Fett's character and the story actually happening. There's a need and a want. Like to me, the Rise of Skywalker is just too loud. Everything is happening. Like no one ever slows down, and the fake out deaths, manipulation that I've never seen done in a movie. This one dies. Poe and Finn died twice. Hux dies. Chewbacca dies. Everybody dies, but it's a fake out. Even Ben Solo twice fake out. Like to me, that's manipulating the audience into feeling emotions because you're incapable of generating them naturally. So I think it felt like a cop out.
I think my hot take is that if this was 4 episodes of the Clone Wars divided up into 20 minutes, people would absolutely love it. Like it's that type of storytelling, and I don't disagree with you, but I also. It's kind of that's what I'm referring to when I talk about watching it on its own terms. Like, yes, it is like literally Whiplash the movie, and so I just watch it like that. You know,
it has the same energy as Solo, where it's something happening and it's like a trail of events, which is like the perfect movie to put on when you're folding clothes or something like that. I can't put on The Last Jedi or Empire Strikes Back.
You have to plan that.
I can't.
That's a good point. That's a great point.
I wouldn't get anything done. You know, I tried. So, but that's why I love it. And I love these forums where we can get people that are able to passionately dislike something and then we don't have to choke each other, you know?
And I don't know if you guys follow, I think JD Star Killer, I think that's his handle on TikTok. And I agree with him. He said that The Rise of Skywalker is the most Star Warsy film just because there's like a lot of ships, a lot of like duels, and a lot of just like Star Wars nostalgia and a lot of fan service, the metal, all that. It's very Star Warsy, so it's just a different type of narrative, a way of telling a story.
I think different storytellers within Star Wars they all tell stories differently. I very much view, even though and this isn't a bad thing necessarily, but I think JJ and Jon Favreau are kind of cut from the same cloth. When they go do their Star Wars products, they put stuff in as if they are playing in a playground with these Star Wars characters. Like I want to make a Boba Fett show. I want to make a show that's like about someone that's like Boba Fett, but that's not quite Boba Fett. And then they just go and do these missions, or like with the Rise of Skywalker or the Force Awakens, all of these just massive spectacle. I will say though, JJ creates great characters. He really does create great characters. Like I said, the beginning of The Force Awakens, he created these characters and set them up so beautifully. And like I wish like the rest of those movies, the rest of The Force Awakens and the rest of The Rise of Skywalker took the time like those intro minutes did in The Force Awakens. Kind of like you're saying, JJ, because it's like we don't have any time to appreciate any growth that's happened in these characters, or there's not been any growth because we don't have the time because you're doing so much. So it's just, but I do think that there are different flavors. So like there are people, and I know a lot of people on Twitter are like loving The Last Jedi, and some of them are like they sound like I do about The Last Jedi. Did I say The Last Jedi? I meant The Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah.
So, my lights just on in the background. Sorry. That scared the shit out
of me. But some people are talking about The Rise of Skywalker like I talk about The Last Jedi. And I'm like, this is just proof that that there are different filmmakers within this universe that make the movies or shows that they want to make. And you're not going to love everything they do, but you're going to love something someone else does. You shouldn't. Yeah. You can have this flavor. You can have that flavor. Some people are going to like this flavor better, but ultimately you don't have to I don't know. Like, even though I don't like The Rise of Skywalker as a movie, I can appreciate certain things about it, and it is Star Wars in the end, and it does make me feel Star Wars things in the end, and I have fun with it at certain points. So I just feel like people should not feel like they have to love everything. It's just like, okay, this show's just not for me, or this movie's just not going to be for me, but I'm glad you like it. So, that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And again, if you criticize things in good faith, I think if you point out these are the pacing, maybe the story is not working, the narrative, dialogue didn't work, the humor didn't land. Like, I get all of that. It's like, if I criticize The Rise of Skywalker, which I do a lot, I'm not going against anybody that loves it. I am jealous of you that you enjoy it. I want to love the final installment as much as I love The Last Jedi. Like, what Star Wars fans want to hate something? Like, I don't want those feelings. To me, the more I think about it, the more I'm nothing on. It's sort of getting indifferent. There's things I'm going to like that I enjoy about it. It's going to be a background movie, like you said, when I'm folding my laundry.
Yeah.
It's not going to pull me in those intimate moments that I have to think about the conversations and pick up on the details and the metaphors. But I still want to criticize parts of it because I think it's fair game, just like Spider-Man No Way Home. It's not perfect, and let's talk about it. I think it makes for an interesting discourse instead of just like, yay, everything is good, and go home. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, but gotta peel it back and get into the layers of it. Well, so my question is because a lot of the reaction we see is identical, word for word. I've had this community like get together and watch the People versus George Lucas because I lived it, through that era of how many people absolutely abhorred. You weren't a Star Wars fan if you liked the prequels. How could you possibly enjoy any of this stuff at any level? And now we see the exact opposite of that, which is also, in my opinion, one of the things we may have also been seeing with the sequels. Because imagine you grew up with the original trilogy. It's what inspired you to make film. Then the prequels come out and you hate them. And then you eventually get the opportunity to make your own Star Wars movie and play in this sandbox. Well, you're going to ignore that stuff. You're going to remove all the stuff you didn't like about the prequels in it. And I hope we don't get into this. Like, there's people that hate the sequels right now that if they got the chance to make it, they would try to like retcon it, or like, we're not going to put any of these elements in there. But there's a generation that's going to grow up going to Galaxy's Edge and loving these characters, and they're going to be like, I talk about, and I've said it many times before, but we had to wait, a decade to get Hayden Christensen and Ewan McGregor back. Why? Because everyone hated these films and like they couldn't come back. But all these people who love them now are like, we had to wait this long because you guys just couldn't let a movie you didn't like exist. Like, come on.
Yeah.
And you didn't even like the movie. You went personally against actual human beings and made their lives miserable. Why would I want to come back to you?
Yeah.
So
Oh man, I was actually in tears at the. I didn't go to the last Star Wars celebration, but like they brought Ahmed Best on stage, and like everyone loved him because all of those people who the prequels were their target audience are like 25 years old right now, and they all love the character. Like George was right all along, and like that brought tears to my eyes. What. With that considered, what did you think of the reaction, and how will these films age? And let's kind of move towards the end, and then I'll go around one more time after this to get your guys' thoughts on Book of Boba Fett. So yeah, real quick, let's just ask, how do you think the sequel trilogy will age? And then if you could pitch any story from this time period, what would you make happen? All right. Any volunteers to go first? Because
I'll go. All
right.
I'll hop in. I'll try to make it short and sweet. I think these films are going to age wonderfully. I have no doubt that these are going to be many young kids' favorite Star Wars films for most of their lives. And I think the quality, the spectacle is something that we'd never seen from Star Wars ever before. And I I think it's going to hold up really well. And I think also as time moves on and we're removed from the context of, oh, we were speculating about this and oh, people didn't like that and stuff. People aren't going to know that unless you sit them down and you're like, how about a round of trivia? Did you know that people thought that this was, people aren't just going to really do that when they watch these movies in the future.
Just to cut it real quick, because it popped up on Twitter again. People forget how hated it was to see Yoda wield a lightsaber.
Oh my God,
so out of character.
Yeah.
Yoda would never use a lightsaber.
And he was flipping around.
Okay.
They were like, who is this guy?
Yes.
I did forget that because I was a kid, and when I saw that in the theaters, I remember thinking that's the best part of this freaking movie. Like,
yeah, Yoda versus Dooku. I watched that on repeat.
Oh my gosh, that was like the part of the movie that I went to see, and I didn't realize people thought it was out of character for Yoda. That's so weird.
Everyone hated it,
but everyone thought the Jedi as a whole.
Yeah, go ahead. So keep going. Sorry.
Yeah, no, you're good. Everyone, like, well, not everyone, but a lot of people thought the Jedi as a whole were just like weird and out of character and not what they imagined the whole prequel trilogy.
Not my Yoda.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think a similar thing is going to happen with the sequels. It's pretty much inevitable with time. And I am grateful for that. And I'm grateful that little kiddos are going to just like be like, oh, that was so kick-ass when Rey and Kylo or you threw down, they're just going to like, that's going to be the scene that they're like, man, I watched that 100 times as a kid.
Yep.
And that's what these movies are for. And so I'm just grateful,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. So that's how they're going to age. But what's your pitch? Yeah.
Yes. I would love to see a story post Rise of Skywalker with Rey exploring the cosmic force a bit more in depth, and training a small but open generation of Jedi that are more akin to the High Republic Jedi. Because something that's a little bit odd to me is like this cyclical, Jedi Finn show, says Star Wars lawyer. Basically something like that. I think something that's been weird to me about Star Wars sometimes is like the cyclical nature of like the Jedi rise and then they fall and it's really depressing, and then they rise again and then everything goes to shit again, and then there's a new empire. And I would love to see something interesting happen after the Rise of Skywalker. So I would like it like an animated live action if possible, like maybe an animated new Jedi show.
Awesome.
Yes.
Love it.
I love it. And like just to act, so I've had that envisioned, and I want like Rey in her future order to go up against someone like Kreia, who believes the Force is the problem and wants to destroy the Force itself while she's exploring the cosmic Force. Like, I think that would be the perfect thing.
Yeah.
But I have many story pitches, so who's going next?
I can go. I think they're going to age wonderfully too. I completely agree. I was rewatching him, like I said, the other day, and I was watching on my iPad because my husband plays his video game on our main TV. So, and I saw him, and I'm watching Force Awakens, and he's doing one of these. And I see him like sort of shifting. He's like, how about you put that on the screen? So I put it, and we watched it together. He's like, I forgot how fun this movie is. And he's never seen a Star Wars movie. So to me,
hey, Kat.
To me, so I think they're gonna age wonderfully. Even the Rise of Skywalker, I think it's gonna do wonders for kids' imagination, because that's ultimately who this is for.
Yeah.
The Rise of Skywalker is still a fun movie with a lot of cool things going on. Kids are gonna appreciate it, and I think it's gonna age much better than what we think. So to me, I fell into a really weird red-pilled kind of moment right after these movies, and I made a mistake of going to YouTube comments and like Twitter, and I'm like, what is happening? That was a huge mistake, because I left hopeful. I'm like, this is the best thing I've seen since the Revenge of the Sith, which was so dark. When you think about it, it's the darkest Star Wars movie ever. And all of a sudden, The Force Awakens comes at you brighter, feels like new hope. You have these fresh new characters. It just feels fun. And to me, I never understood the hate after it. So I have high hopes for the sequel, aging really gracefully. So, and as far as my pitch is concerned, I mean, don't get me wrong, all the Jedi stuff is cool, but I am more about, I'm so sorry, you guys. I should have locked them up. I kind of want to see some dark, like not even Sith, dark side Force users somewhere. How does the actual First Sword actually happen? Who's like in the behind the scenes? Oh well, I've sensed the Force is now all Jedi. Let's do so. You know what I mean? That part we never explored at. Like all the Sith, all the dark side Force users are always like serving the protagonist, serving a story, but it's never about them. So I think it'll be kind of cool to see some dark users in the sequel era, which I don't think we're going to get. I think it's a little too risky, a little too edgy, a little too dark, but that's just my pitch. On top of like new Jedi Academy with Rey and Finn and maybe Poe Adventures, I think that'd be a lot of fun. Like again, in the spirit of Force, in the spirit of everything else.
I've got a comic recommendation for you. I will message you later.
Please do.
Because I'll go in depth. Don't worry, I got you covered.
I love dark side, so anything.
I got you.
But you saying that though makes me think of like a specific scene in the People versus George Lucas, where there's this one guy who's a huge fan. He's talking about how much he hates the prequels, and he has this little like 5-year-old boy, and the 5-year-old boy is like, "I want to watch this one," and he holds up Phantom Menace, and the guy physically looks like he's dying inside, and he's like,
"Oh no."
Okay. And it makes me laugh because and a lot of people I know that hated the prequels still hate them. They still hate them, and that's okay. It's not like aging well doesn't mean that if you hate it now you're going to love it eventually. No, it just means that other people are going to grow up enjoying it, seeing it from a different light, and like it's going to change the whole I guess a percentage based like thoughts on it. But yeah, how about you, Xanatos?
I think they're going to age extremely well. I never get tired of defending Rey on TikTok. Like, I think I have the same 5 arguments every day in comment sections, or I make a video edit basically showing that Rey's a Skywalker because duh. And like, it's maybe it's not for you. Maybe it's for that little girl that dresses like Rey that's at Galaxy's Edge. Let people like things. Go away. If you don't like it, go to the stuff you like. Maybe connect with people that like the sequels but like other stuff too. There's so much Star Wars. You don't have to make it your identity to hate it.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. And what's your pitch?
So I think I would want to see more of maybe a Rebels animated show in the middle of the sequel movies, maybe where they're showing more of the Knights of Ren. Maybe more of the dyad stuff.
Yeah.
Just exploration on stuff they introduced that they could flesh out a whole lot better that would make the sequels more cohesive, kind of like they did with the Clone Wars and all that. So it would kind of make more connective tissue between all 3 movies.
That's a great idea, actually.
Yeah, I love that. And I agree with all of y'all. I do think that the movies aren't going to age well with me personally, as far as I'm probably never going to love The Rise of Skywalker. I want to. I've given it enough shots. I've given it 8 tries at this point, but I'm probably never going to. But you know what? There's something about Star Wars, and it's just this generational magic thing that kids love it, adults love it, but then those kids are growing up with it on their entry point. They're coming in on, with the prequels, then with the sequels. And there's something about Star Wars that is just, I don't know. I think that even though there are going to be people who, like you said, I don't think that people that hate it now are going to love it. There might be some people who turn, and in particular, I do see people kind of changing their tune on The Last Jedi, some. Not a lot, but some. I do see people say I rewatched The Last Jedi and I liked it a lot better this time. So I think that could happen to an extent, but I think you're going to see a lot of it with the new generation of Star Wars fans coming into it here. And so, yeah, I think it's going to age beautifully, and Star Wars is what's great about Star Wars. And so as far as my pitch goes, I'm not good at these things. But I do there are sometimes people ask me what would you change if you could change one thing about a movie? I'm like, I don't do that. I just take the movie what it is and go on. I'm not good at that, but with this, I think think I would like to see something, whether it's animated or live action, kind of just building out the Canto Bight kind of aspect. I think that could be really interesting if you flesh it out more, and it does get more into the politics, which I think I think Rian Johnson's actually a prequel fan, and he put more of that in the sequel trilogy than JJ did. And so like I think the Canto Bight's just like a really rich tapestry you could paint on, and you have the kids that were inspired by Luke at the end. I would love to see what happens with them. I don't know. I think it's a really interesting place, and I would like to see more of it. So,
yeah, we did have an anthology, a book, for Canto Bight, and we got introduced to Kedpin Shiklop, who is a Vaporator salesman.
Shiklop.
It's a weird story, but it's actually kind of cool. Where he's, as the story unfolds, you find out like the real kind of person he is, and he had a brief scene. Was going to have a brief scene that got cut out where you would see his naked alien bare ass.
Oh, yep. I saw that.
I find myself grateful that it was deleted.
That was a good call, Ryan. Yeah. In fact, if you watch the deleted scenes, most of them are like, I'm really glad you cut those. there's a lot of them that's just like, that definitely doesn't quite fit in the movie. Good call.
Yeah.
All right, awesome. And for me, I guess I'm gonna do my OG pitch of, I need a story that is Rey, and she's trying to start her new Jedi school, and so she has like some younglings that are Force sensitive, but she doesn't know what she's doing, right? She's trying to start this, she doesn't know how to teach and all this stuff, right? She's been a loner this entire time. Finn is with her, he's been trained as much as she has, right? She's more powerful in the Force than he is. He has more discipline and understanding because of his military training, all this stuff, so they work super well together. But in order to understand how to teach the Force, she's using the books that she took, as well as Luke's notes on them. And so she opens the book and starts reading Luke's notes, and we do a flashback. And the whole show is an anthology Luke show, where we find out when Luke found this passage and went off on this adventure, found this Force-sensitive group of people, learned from them, and what made him write these notes. And then we flash back, and she's going to use those notes to teach them. So we get her building up a school. We get a kick-ass anthology Luke show that's just showing the highlights of his adventures around the galaxy, trying to find out like how the hell the Force works, because he didn't learn a whole lot from Yoda. You know what I mean? Like when he shows up in Return of the Jedi, and he's like choking people and stuff. Yoda didn't teach him how to choke people. Because who would he practice on? Yoda? Yoda didn't teach him to mind trick people.
Just one of those things to figure out, I guess. When you get mad.
Wait. Okay. I was gonna make a joke, but I'm not gonna.
Right, now I want to know.
The filter's turned on.
I mean, it's kind of funny, you know. Is he a Gary Stu? You know, he's so powerful.
Gary Stu.
Lady Jedi, too much power.
Oh man, don't get us started.
This podcast will go on a whole nother hour.
Oh yeah. Holding back.
All right, awesome. Well, let me actually have us. So for anyone that hasn't, so everyone here on the panel has watched the second episode of the Book of Boba Fett. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. So I want to say to anyone who's in the chat, if you haven't seen it, we're gonna have a brief conversation about it, and everyone's gonna also give us where we can find their content and all this stuff, and we'll sign off. So if I put this at the end, so if you don't want to be spoiled, thank you for hanging out with us, and you can come back and check out everyone's thoughts at the end. But let's go with people's thoughts on the most recent episode of Book of Boba Fett, as well as where we can find you and your awesome content. And I'll start with Ephraim first.
Awesome. I am such a big fan of this episode. I've seen some lukewarm takes, and I can understand that if you're still warming up to just the concept of this parallel narrative with the flashbacks and the present day stuff. Maybe you're more anticipating the present day stuff. You're a little bit let down, but it is, to me, it's just so beautifully executed. Everything that the flashbacks actually has to do with the person that Boba is now. And the spoiler territory here, I'm going to try to keep it as spoiler free as possible, but just him being the liaison between the Sand People, defending them against the Pikes, shows that this is how he became the person who is worthy of being the daimyo of Mos Espa. Mm-hmm. Standing up for the people who have been terrorized by biker gangs and drug cartels. And as someone who was involved in that, he obviously has seen both sides of it. And now he was quite downtrodden and was on the receiving end of that, having to understand what the indigenous communities were enduring by these systems. I think it is absolutely beautiful and also pertinent. And I'm really, really looking forward to the rest of the story, not because I think, oh, there's going to be another cool Glup Shido comic character, which I absolutely loved. That freaking Black Chrysanthemum was in this episode. That I was giddy.
Yeah. Like, what?
It's one of those moments where you're glad you didn't spoil it for yourself before watching the episode, for sure.
And even if we don't get a single other cameo like that, even if the rest of it is just this intense character study of Boba, I will be completely happy. I'm really, really liking it. So yeah, those are my thoughts. Again, my name is Ephraim. My tag is GenZennial on Twitter and TikTok. And also, quick plug, I also release music, and it's just under my name, Ephraim McFarland, and I would be doing myself a disservice if I didn't at least say that. So yeah, you can find me on Spotify too if you'd like. And Dark Chaco, thanks for having me, everybody. It was wonderful speaking with you.
Yeah, thank you for coming on. So I actually hadn't seen any of Ephraim's stuff until he did the audio where he pointed out that you could interchange Thrawn's full Chiss name with Jason Derulo's intro in any of his songs.
Yep.
So he made that in audio. He's like, with Thrawn Rodo.
Yes. It was actually Claudia from Coludia Says who found a Tumblr post that said that. And I was like, I know what I have to do. And
but I don't have the strength.
And that's the origin. Yeah. I was like, is this gonna be my legacy? But it's
a great legacy.
Yes.
All right. How about you, Xanatos?
I really enjoyed this episode. I feel like a lot of the complaints that people had about the first one, this one kind of covered. And have any or all of you seen The Last Samurai?
Yeah, it's been a while, but I've seen it.
A long time ago, but yeah.
When Boba is training with the gaffy stick in that scene when they're fighting each other and all the Tuskens are watching, it looked just like when Tom Cruise was training with the sword and they're all taking bets on if he's going to win or not. Like, it looked ripped right from the movie, and I love that part. And I'm behind a bit on the comics. I knew who the Wookiee was from like pictures, from like, I know that's an important character, but I haven't read those comics yet. But no, it's a solid. It's looking like it's going to be a solid show. Oh, and the flashbacks are formatted like Arrow, from the DC, where like the flashback and then stuff in the present happens. It's related. It looks like that's the direction it's going, and I kind of like that a lot. But yeah, I am Xanatos 1138 on literally everything. I'm most active on TikTok and Twitter. So yeah.
Awesome. I appreciate it. Also, real quick, so I got Luke from the Padawans podcast sent me a picture earlier of the gang's jacket. I didn't get a chance to decode it, but if he's correct and it is the Rin Riven Dai gang,
Oh,
That'd be so.
that
so cool.
would be an amazing connection. Bloodline reference.
Bloodline. Okay, we got to read that book. I'm reading that book.
Put
That's
it
the next
up
one.
first on your list.
But it might be because they have a role to play and they're around at this point in time. Also, if you are reading the comics, please read Crimson Reign and keep up with those stories because it's really good. Michael, how about you?
Yeah. So first of all, I have it's a trend here. I have read none of the comics. So when that character popped up, I was like, kind of a different perspective. I was like, who is this awesome character? So I didn't get excited because I knew who the character was. I got excited because this is awesome. I don't know who this person is, but this is gonna be cool. So that's just a little thing there. But the first episode came out and I liked it, but I did have some critiques about it. I felt like the action was kind of weird. I did not the Robert Rodriguez, the way that he directed The Mandalorian, I felt different in this episode action wise. Like the action just felt so visceral in The Mandalorian when Boba Fett came and destroyed those stormtroopers. There was just a different feel to the way that he shot the action, and I felt like that was really weirdly done in the first episode. The pacing was a little weird to me in the first episode. I guess I just didn't know what this show's. I don't know what this is exactly. It's different for a first episode of a TV show. It didn't really feel like a first episode. You know what I mean? So I liked it, but I didn't know how excited about the rest of the show was going to be. I was going to be, but then I watched this episode and holy crap. I absolutely loved it. I'm on board 100%. Every one of my concerns about action and stuff was it was great. It was great action today. It felt more like I kind of thought it would feel. And then I loved the stuff with the Tusken Raiders. And I didn't expect to get that train sequence with them. And train sequences in Star Wars are just great. I never thought I would get them, but with Solo and this, I'm just give me more. I love it. But
it also had some notes from Boba Fett's time on the train in Clone Wars with the Asajj Ventress.
Oh, good call, dude. Yeah.
Hey.
Wow. Good call. I forgot about that.
That's a good call.
Yeah, I have seen Clone Wars. So I really loved it. I love what's going on at present day. I would like to see. I hope at some point we get the flashbacks to a point where we know the character motivations well, and we don't depend on the flashbacks for so much of the episode. I would like for that to focus more on the present day coming up soon. But I really, really love this episode, and I'm liking the show a lot. So pumped about it. I'm Michael Hoover. I do a Certain Point of View podcast. We're available on, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, pretty much everywhere. And we also have a Facebook group. We're on Instagram as well. And on Twitter, I'm very active on Twitter at certain_POV pod. Love for you to follow us there. And dude, thank you for having me on this show. It's been so much fun, and your community is I have been keeping up with the chat, and it's really, really a great community. So well done. It's not easy to build a great community on YouTube. So really, you're doing a great job, and I love your stuff. So thanks for having me on. It's an honor.
Well, the secret is I built it from TikTok, and I'm trying to slowly bring it over. I'm not brave enough for YouTube. I'm getting there. And Salvador Mendez is saying, did you hear something about a Ben Solo trilogy? That Kathleen said something about sequel trilogies, the sequel characters returning. None of that has been confirmed. She said that there's more stories to tell for these people. And also, I think the trilogy format is just not good anymore. I think it was good for movie making in the 90s. I think that this trilogy format needs to die. We need to take behind the shed.
Have a great movie.
I agree. I think Element pointed out really well. It's a death of a movie almost.
Yeah. Exactly. Now, another thing I would love as a novel is the entire sequel trilogy again, and maybe a little bit before, specifically from Ben's point of view.
Oh man,
could be cool.
Yes.
But yeah, last but certainly not least, we have JJ.
I come from a perspective, I didn't know anything about Boba except the 4 lines that he had in Empire Strikes Back, and as a child in Clone Wars, seeking revenge for Jango's death. That's the extent of my knowledge of Boba. No feelings, nothing. It's a character. He looks awesome. He does cool things. That's the end of it. So going into this, I'm going in with a completely, and I avoided every review, every video, everybody made. I'm like, I'm going into this with a fresh perspective. I love it. I think I like it more than The Mandalorian. I'll be honest with you. It just feels really personal. It feels like it's titled appropriately, The Book of Boba Fett. It feels like a chapter. Its story is being told, and it's being told almost like a dual narrative, flashing back, like Arrow, like David pointed out, which to me it works. It's sort of that sort of nostalgia actually services the character because you don't know anything about him. Sure. So to me, this works really well, especially this last episode. My goodness, it just feels really intimate. Again, back to that Star Wars telling a story that just feels really close to heart, and then expanding on Tuskens, which have been sort of portrayed in a horrible way, in my opinion. So for them to kind of actually say, there's different tribes of us that do different rituals, different things. Oh, I love that. I love that whole sequence. It felt a little Burning Man there for a little bit when they're doing around the fire. Just a little bit.
When he hit him with the lizard and spice combo, I was
that was weird. But I the sequence, the dream sequence though, with the water and the tree in the background, and then the flashback to Camino again, but looking at the ship going away, I was like, this is some beautiful imagery. Like, I cannot believe we're experiencing this in a TV format. So I'm enthralled. I cannot wait to see more of this. I cannot believe we're only getting 6 episodes, and I'm hoping the flashbacks do stop at some point so we can get the present. Yeah. Like, what does he actually want except just rule Tatooine? What else is there?
Can I point out something real quick before we wrap up? And actually, JJ, go ahead and hit me. I just want to leave everyone with a thought after you hit your socials.
Okay. I just post on TikTok. That's about it. On Cat Lady JJ. It's mostly Star Wars and Marvel and other goofy things that come up at the time. I don't know. Just whatever people find interesting. So yeah, I like to. Yeah, that's about it. Nerdy stuff. Yeah. Thank you for having me, Chaco. This has been so awesome, and all you guys are amazing. I'll make sure I find all of you. If I'm not following you, I'll make sure I do. So. This was so much fun.
Yeah. I didn't mention it, but yes, thank you for having me. This is awesome.
Oh yeah, thanks for coming on. I appreciate it because I always I can make fun of Element 7 because you came on Diet before, or you came on High Ground before Diet in the Force. She was going to come on the other podcast, but couldn't for travel reasons and stuff. So now I can make fun of him.
You can add one to the talent.
What were you gonna say, Ephraim?
Okay, on my second watch of this episode with my wife, when the Hutts pack up and leave, and Boba takes his helmet off, Fennec says they're Hutts. We'd have to get permission to kill them. That one line. I've been thinking about it for hours. Why would they have to get permission to kill them? Is Boba in league with some sort of higher power that the Hutts are also responsible to, and therefore there cannot be infighting? And who is that?
So there's an order somewhere.
Just
there's
a question.
Some kind of
or was it a joke? Like
Rin Riven Die.
Yeah, is it Rin Riven Die? Is it Kira?
I think it's Kira.
I'm still on the Kira train, but at this point, if it doesn't happen, I'm fine.
I would love to see Kira. That'd be amazing.
All right, so that hashtag show put up a story saying that they are confirming that there is a Kira show from Disney Plus in the works with Emilia Clarke reprising her role. Now, I don't follow that hashtag show, so I can't fully speak to. I know that they're big and popular. I can't speak to their accuracy, but they're saying we have that this is an exclusive that was given to them. So that could be happening. We could be getting Kira. Also, I want to say that Boba Fett's reaction to the lizard jumping up his brain was the best. And he's just like, sorry, dude. Like, I know you gave me this gift and I accidentally swallowed it.
Whoops.
He had no idea what was happening.
Oh, but can we not? We have to mention the. That was the
best
like, what
one.
am I watching? This is the most ruthless bounty hunter in the world, and he's just like,
You know, that was pure Tamura Morrison. He was just like,
yeah, totally. I see it everywhere. And did you guys notice when he was carrying the Tusken for the burial into the pyre, it mirrored Anakin and Shmi.
Yes.
I was like,
Yep.
Mhm.
Also,
I hit.
the couple that was in the building, they're saying it's not right. Deleted scenes for A New
A
Hope.
New Hope, yeah.
Yep.
Oh,
The couple from the train.
Fixer,
yeah,
and Cammy.
yes.
Some of Luke's childhood friends.
Luke's childhood friends.
Great Easter egg.
okay.
It's amazing.
Man.
Look identical to them.
Okay, I'm gonna go watch
obviously
those
they're
scenes
not-
tonight. So that's great, man.
Yeah.
You know what I love? I love that the first 2 episodes, at least. I'm sure there will be bigger cameos later, but I love that the first couple of episodes of the show had cameos, but they weren't like Han Solo shows up, or like, it wasn't like these massive cameos. It was just these like winks and nods, and they were focusing on story first.
Yeah.
I really appreciate that. Cameos are fine as long as the story works, but like I love that it didn't depend on big cameos right out the gate. We got some really like deep dive cameos.
Yeah, it wasn't like the guest star show like Mando season 2, where it's like they wink at the camera and it's like,
oh, it's a video game
available on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
To be honest, though, I loved all of it.
Yeah.
By the way, Chuck, your chat is amazing. I've been
Right.
I'm dying.
I just saw that.
I'm dying
You
here.
guys
I'm trying so hard not to bust that laugh.
Star Wars has a lot of those, so it's a wonder you're in this place.
It's an issue. As Kiki puts it, monster fudgers have found Star Wars, so be careful out there.
The woman that plays the female Tusken too. Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, the warrior with yes.
Both of the Tusken.
And the guy who plays the
what is
chieftain.
happening? Oh God, the chat is great. You guys are awesome. So great. I love you all.
The chat is bonking, Brooke. Bonking her to horny jail.
Awesome. I love you guys. We could go all night. This is actually longer than I try to make the episodes. So I appreciate everyone hanging out and bearing with me. And Julia, Christine for popping in. Hello.
Hi.
Hi, Julia.
Also, goodbye. Thank you, everyone that's joined me here in the panel. All of you guys are welcome back. This was an awesome conversation and super fun. So, like, if you guys have topics you guys want, feel free to like hit me up and see if I'm doing something similar soon. Next week, I put out feelers on Twitter and on TikTok. I want to get a list of everyone's favorite fan films for Star Wars, and I have a panel put together where we're gonna watch them in our time. We're gonna come back here and talk about them.
Cool, man.
Nice.
So yeah, we look forward to having you guys join us next week for that discussion. But yeah, thank you guys so much.
This was great. Thank you.
And may the Force be with you.